Hi, you might wonder why I'm making this video in my car. Well, as is so often with traveling, this is the exact spot where I had the inspiration for this video. I felt very strongly that we were moving, as we have done with the automobile, with sailing and many other things, from a kind of map world to a SatNav world when it comes to making decisions on boards. This is a change I think was well underway before the pandemic, but it's been given a boost by the pandemic. What do I mean by this shift from maps to SatNav? Well, I guess traditionally we've used annual budgets, strategic Bibles as a reference point, a fairly rigid reference point in many cases for making decisions and framing other decisions that we may make through the year or years. I feel with greater uncertainty, with the rise of big data, and more importantly the rise of big data analytics, that we're moving to a world where we're taking more decisions when we need to, as opposed to before we need to. And we're using dynamic information at junction points to determine what is the next step on our particular journey. Now, this is not all plain sailing, if I can use another metaphor. You have to have the data, you have to have the team, you have to have the capabilities to adapt and work in this way. Not all decisions, depending on the nature of the organization that you're in, can be made like this. You can't fiddle around with some decisions once you're committed, or it's much easier, much more difficult to do so. So this shift from maps to a more SatNav kind of orientation is actually underway, but just as in the early days of cars and boats, the early days of SatNav, as you will probably remember, were pretty challenging. There were lots of strange routes suggested to be taken, but weren't. So boards need to have the capability to adapt. That's a given. They need to have the ability to test assumptions. Many of these approaches are fundamentally dependent upon the assumptions that you make. Some of those assumptions will be evidence-based. Some of them will be interpretive, from evidence hopefully, but sometimes from other things. So boards which actually are able to make the most of this shift will be the ones that have the most agile mindsets, I think, in terms of managing in a new way of making decisions. Thank you.